Our next speaker is a distinguished military aviation meteorologist turned UNSWMO intergovernmental expert. With over 37 years of experience, he has excelled in multiple fields, including science administration, strategy development, management coaching, and talent enabling. He was the Chief Meteorological Officer for the United Nations in 2008. He now currently serves as a scientific advisor at the Science and Engineering Research Board. He is driving next-generation science capital in India by overseeing research grants and arranging initiatives across industries. Dr. Mehajan's expertise and dedication extend beyond his professional achievements, and he also volunteers his time to mentor civil service aspirants. He serves as a panel expert for international agencies and pursues his passions as an avid marathoner, pro cyclist, adventure photographer, blogger, and yoga practitioner. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the very inspirational Dr. Rajeev Mehajan.
Good afternoon, my dear friends. I didn't hear. Good afternoon, my dear friends. Wonderful. So, Winston Churchill once said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. I might have been painted in the posters or in my introduction as somebody very big in professional and personal space, but let me tell you, very candidly, I'm a much lesser mortal in life. I would hardly deserve that. And when I say so, I had been a very timid boy, literally timid boy, somebody really poor in participation, somebody who was, really scared of any kind of limelight in life. And here I stand in front of you today at this prestigious platform, TEDx, to share about my life experiences. Let's get started. The first narrative, as you can see, is about mathematics. So mathematics is something which became my passion as I lived for and through it. Starting my journey with graduation in mathematics honors, followed by MSc mathematics with merits in 2 subjects, 99% and 100%, way back in 1985 when it was absolutely something rare. Mathematics became somewhat very important, and it became so important, imagine, even my career, when I chose my career, first career, as an Indian Air Force officer, for my branch, the minimum eligibility condition itself was MSc Mathematics or MSc Physics. And mathematics played such a pivotal role even during career progression in this growth story that imagine during my mid-career stage, when it came to the nuances of numerical weather prediction modeling, something very niche subject in Air Force during those times in 2004 I'm talking about, or even in the recent times my appointment as intergovernmental international expert member for World Meteorological Organization of United Nations, it played a key role. Now all of you in this audience I'm sure must be wondering and thinking that this guy must be really mathematics rich kid, somebody with huge aptitude for mathematics during the school times. I think the assumption is logical, but unfortunately grossly wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I was really scared is the word, during my school days in mathematics. Why scared? I would say paranoid about mathematics. And it was basically because of 2 reasons. superficial understanding of the subject, and continued poor performance. The story continued to an extent that I used to even avoid the eyes of mathematics teachers, not only in the class, even in the corridors, and I will hide myself. Believe me what I'm saying, right? And the story continued till 10th standard, and till 11th standard happened, and it was a disaster. You know what happened? This so-called scientific advisor to Government of India flunked in mathematics, and he had a compartment actually. Imagine. He had a compartment in mathematics in 11th standard. So those who generally used to consider me a sharp boy, at least my parents, my relatives, I had no face to show at home, neither at school. But this failure perhaps brought a silver lining for me, and the silver lining was that it not only had cut me to the size, but also helped me to introspect that why the hell I'm fearing so much about this subject actually. And imagine, 1 year in 12th, when I joined ranks along with my classmates after clearing the compartment exam, 1 year of hard work in mathematics, I performed exceptionally well in 12th board exams, to even my surprise. And the journey, the buck didn't stop, as I already told you, whether it was my graduation, post-graduation, and so on. So, there is a profound lesson. There is a profound lesson here. The lesson of failures, that everything is not over. And the first lesson which came to my mind, I must share with you, that if you never fail, you are not probably trying hard enough in life actually. Having said that, why do we only say that we need to learn from failures of ours as we progress in life? Why can't we learn from failures of others as we become conscious, as we become alive, as we become vigilant about the environment around us? So why not learn from failures of others? Thirdly, and importantly, it is very important. You can keep on blaming your institutions, your teachers, the bad curriculum when it comes to any failure in your life. But is it the right thing to do? I think the better thing is to accept your own mistakes and move on. From school days, I now take you to the next stage of my college. And you know what happened? When I reached college, I chose college by design, a college of Sir Amitabh Bachchan, right? That is the first reason. And the second and important reason was also that the Department of Mathematics was the best in Delhi University North Campus of Kirodimal College. But my euphoria of joining North Campus soon faded away within no time when I realized that my biggest handicap in this college is going to be Angrezi. I realized that in the environment where I am, the people along with where I am going to be always feeling afraid, scared about this lack of communication. So what did I do? What did I do? I simply picked up. Within 15 days I realized that there is a huge possibility that I will not be able to participate in the college activities. I will not be able to interact with my own friends in my own class at the level playing field. And importantly, I will also not be able to perhaps make one single girlfriend of mine. And this all prompted me to approach my own classmate, Anuj Bhatnagar, who recently retired as Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax from Bombay. I approached him. The proposition was that I'm going to talk to him in Angrezi, and he is going to privately correct me when it came to Angrezi. And within short span, to great surprise of mine, not that I became fluent, but perhaps within a month or two, I became comfortable in this Firangi language. And rest is the history. You know, during all the 3 years of graduation, when it came to the Mathematics Society of the college, I was the Joint Secretary, General Secretary, and President. And the Joint Secretary, I was chosen within first 3 months of my entering into the college. I was selected as Senior Under Officer NCC based on deeper leadership skills. The parameters the people had decided, not only of my college, but the entire army battalion, which comprised of 8 colleges in its ambit in North Campus. The Dramatic Society, the Music Society, particularly because Amitabh Bachchan was the General Secretary of this particular society, and so on. The list is endless on what I all participated when it came to college. And imagine, ladies and gentlemen, I could also manage one girlfriend. Now, if my college, if my college classmates or my college people are listening to this talk, they will definitely scarily cut me to the side and they will say, come on, Rajeev, you had only one girlfriend? Give us a break, actually. Okay, with this, I draw 3 lessons of life. And before I draw these 3 lessons of life, I think you must appreciate with all the generation, my generation, your generation, the previous generation, the biggest fear in the life which generally people have been looking at when it comes to this type of failure is fear of being labeled. Fear of being labeled. Kuch to log kahenge. I think I overcame this fear actually. There was a fear of being labeled by my own college mates, my own classmates, but I didn't wish to be put in a box. I simply moved on and overcame my fears. And the first lesson which I draw from here is the lesson of resources. We will always have the limited resources, but it is up to us that how do we capitalize on these resources. Anuj Bhatnagar not only became my resource, but an entire support system throughout my life. The second lesson, I will talk about the importance of initiative. There may be situations in your life which you feel handicapped, which you are not able to create. Don't you think it is important to take initiative in this process? And lastly, the confidence. My dear friends, confidence is not an act. I again repeat, confidence is not an act you can learn. It is a way of growing in life. And that brings me to coin what I generally popularly say, AAA theory: acknowledge, accept, and act. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were a year, month, or even 15 minutes ago. You have the right, given by the great Almighty to you, to continue growing and continue evolving. The next story I bring to you is about discipline known as meteorology. A discipline which is not only challenging even for the present day meteorologists, but imagine it was a huge challenge for the greatest scientist on this earth. Any guesses? Yes, wonderful audience. And I just read what he said. He said, my first profession was meteorology, but I couldn't cope up with the uncertainties associated with it and had to switch to physics. Albert Einstein had option to switch over, but Rajeev was in a catch-22 situation because while he joined Indian Air Force, he had taken oath on commissioning that he is going to serve the country with honor and pride. So he had to move on. The real situation came to light when I landed up in my first posting, field posting, Agra, generally mischievously known as Agra by our young officers of Indian Air Force. And the young pilot officer Rajeev within no time realized that it is not of importance to top the Air Force Staff College at Coimbatore, because unless you meet the military aviation needs, which are very specific and very delicate actually. So I had no option but to carry on. Well, the task was difficult. The task was difficult for two reasons. The first reason was to issue accurate weather forecast for the flying machines which were really vulnerable because of their vintage value and high speeds, and that too with the limited inputs available to you as a forecaster, and also the tools, the primitive tools, the processes available to you as a weatherman in Indian Air Force at that time in 1987. But the second reason was bigger and more challenging, and that reason, ladies and gentlemen, was facing the audience every day in the mass briefing. And you know what kind of audience? 300 air crew, the pilots, the signalers, ATC officers, and so on. How to face them in case your forecast has gone wrong the previous day. Imagine. So there was always some kind of, manthan going on initial 1 or 2 months in my life when I joined Agra, and I had perhaps two choices when it came to my profession. Either to adopt the defensive forecast approach to save my skin later. But the problem here was that in this bargain, I will create a lot of opportunity losses for my stakeholders, that is pilots, if they cannot fly just because I want to keep the safe margins. The second choice was to have an assertive approach, no matter how risk heavy, with hardly any safer margins. But this also had a problem, associated problem, because in this case, there was a problem of physical losses of accidents, incidents, and consequent lives having lost of pilots or even the aircraft for that matter. But I still chose the second option, the later option. The courtesy was my own first mentor, late Group Captain Ashok Nanavati, who always used to look tall in the crowd, and was actually, became my role model when it came to the style of forecasting. So I kept on giving customized, tailor-specific forecasts for the aviation needs, no matter how risky. And in the bargain, I earned the confidence of my stakeholders, whether they were aircrew and other users of services. But in the bargain, what I remember very distinctly, there was always a risk of facing court of inquiries if I go wrong and the accidents or incidents happen. To cut it short, what I want to say, that it was basically a professional challenge. How? Let me explain to you. This brought the importance of professional challenges in life actually. Generally, if you look at all around us, you will find there are professional challenges when we join any new profession. For example, the pilots, whether they're fighter pilots, transport pilots, or helicopter pilots, they have a professional hazard of risk. Which risk? Life risk. When it comes to the meteorological officers and ATC officers, air traffic control officers, they have the risk of life of others on their shoulders. When it comes to the profession of doctors, it comes to the risk of both things, the life of others and your professional repute. And when it comes to future corporators and entrepreneurs like you will always have perhaps to deliver And there will be a risk of delivery of time, delivery of effectiveness. Don't you think so? The first lesson, ladies and gentlemen, is of courage of conviction. That means no matter whatever your professional hazards are, you need to convert your professional hazards into professional challenges. The second lesson is that no matter whatever stakes you have, merely developing love for your profession, getting married to your organization at the earliest, you will bring asset in your life, and that asset is going to be the people in the organization. You will be surprised that as I grew in Air Force, my assertiveness, rather than decreasing, it kept on increasing because of the meteorological sense which I developed over a period of time. And at times I was being referred as human weather radar of the station. That means I had earned the confidence of my stakeholders, the people in the organization, the most important assets. The last part, if you continue to be assertive in life when it comes to your profession or personal life, you are going to be not just individual, you are going to prove yourself a brand. And if you look around in your campus, in this BITS campus, you will really find that you are having all around you a lot of future and current brand ambassadors. So after making you the future brand ambassador, now let me take you to the next story. And the story is about my next professional stage actually. I remember distinctly during my school times, because of my interest in the science models, the developing science models, my classmates used to teasingly call me scientist. Least realized at that time that Ma Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, perhaps was on their tongues actually, right? So the story goes like this. When, after completing my United Nations mission in 2009, I got position in Air Headquarters, the Director of Meteorology, as somebody to steer the cause of the meteorological branch. One of the passionate projects which we were handling at that time was to create one national deputation of meteorological officers of Indian Air Force. We were working really very hard for this actually, and after 2 years of struggle, finally we could create one deputation. And the reasons were very simple. One was the promotional aspects, other was the exposure to the national apex level. But you will be surprised, after so much of hard work, when it came to the D-Day, when the green flag was shown by the India Meteorological Department, all the 10 group captains in Indian Air Force who were eligible for this deputation, including me, refused to apply for this deputation. There was a predicament when it came to me per se, because my boss had told me very clearly, Rajeev, whether you like it or not, whether you might have prepared for this deputation over 2 years, but you will not apply because you are required in Air Headquarters. Well, we had to, last date was over, nobody applied, we had to extend this date for another 15 days without any results again. And you know what? This time the boss had a change of mind. Perhaps he didn't wish the branch to face any embarrassment in front of the top people who had made interventions for this deputation to go through. And he said, Rajeev, apply. And I became the first ever deputationist from Indian Air Force in the nation to join India Meteorological Department. And the story doesn't stop here. You'll be now surprised what I'm going to share. Not only I was the first deputationist from Air Force, in the entire existence, entire history of 137 years of India Meteorological Department, at that time, I became somebody, first time, who joined as a meteorologist in that organization. And one thing led to another. Within 4 to 5 months, Dr. Shailesh Naik, the Secretary MOS of the controlling ministry of this department, that is India Meteorological Department, asked me to come and join rather ministry and work there, not only to contribute towards India Meteorological Department, but for another 9 departments under the umbrella of this MOS headquarters. Imagine the amount of exposure I received of the national infrastructure projects of importance I dealt with, not necessarily in atmospheric sciences or meteorology, but in ocean sciences, ocean technology, geosciences, geotechnology, and so on. But the biggest added advantage at personal level was that I gained huge confidence that I am no lesser than the civilian scientists around me. So I joined India Meteorological Department as Scientist E, and I applied for Scientist G position. That means the 2 jumps in a new department, and that too in a new ministry, Ministry of Science and Technology. And ladies and gentlemen, I became, in their history of 60 years also, to be the first person to be appointed as science administrator, that to be equivalent to an Air Vice Marshal rank in 60 years of history of Department of Science and Technology. My aim to share with you is not to get claps from you. My aim is slightly different. My aim is what I am going to perhaps share with you now. If I take a pause from this story and I ask you, your biggest fear, if I ask you, is it of death, is it of failure, or is it of being labeled? So what will be your answer? Pardon? Failure. Being labeled. So everybody has his own set of fears, but to my humble perception, whatever life I have gone through in my life, the biggest failure is none of them. The biggest failure, ladies and gentlemen, is of uncertainty. The biggest failure is of change, the resistance to change. Hope you get my point. So, the first lesson which I derive from this, it's better to take your baby steps in life. And when I say baby steps, I do not mean shortcuts. I again repeat, not shortcuts. Nobody dies of hard work. Nobody dies of hard work. The second lesson, you may have dreams in life, but planning them well and executing them with ruthless prioritization is of utmost importance. When I was a pilot officer, that time only I realized there is none deputation in the Indian Air Force meteorological branch. But I lived this childhood dream when I reached finally the destination here at headquarters after 22 years of service. The third lesson is of resistance to change. There was a girlfriend of mine, another one, right? Who would never ever listen to any other music than only one music. When it came to going to restaurants, she will only order one type of dish. When it came to wearing clothes, she will wear only similar clothes every time. So no matter how hard I persuaded her to see something new as a sign of change, as a sign of life, she didn't budge, and I simply moved on, to be candid. And similarly, likewise, in my professional life, opening to new arenas for the possibilities of growth in my life was extremely important for the maintenance of my self-esteem. Why get stagnated? And I don't blame my peer group captains, right? Ultimately, those peer group captains of mine who didn't apply for this deputation without any enhancement or any perks also at that time, why would they go from the stage of certainty to uncertainty? But if I would not have taken this challenge and taken this change when there was nothing On wall there was nothing, written that something like this would happen, I think I would not have made this big, that I would have been a recognized man, not only in the Air Force, but in the entire country, in academia and R&D setup. And perhaps I would not have been invited at this prestigious platform of TEDx. The next story of mine is the last story, and the story is known as Sankalp. Sankalp is an organization, is an NGO, non-governmental organization, which basically I worked for last 11 years, where I have helped Indian civil services aspirants, that is IAS, IPS, etc., to make their aspirations coming true, I think hundreds of them. Presently, in the capacity of chairman of mock interview boards, I do two tasks there. Number one, I provide the interview guidance to those people who clear the prelims and mains examination. And number two is hand-holding, literally hand-holding, working on mission mode till they clear the interviews. If this time, then next time. So is this story about my fears? Not at all. This story is about those observations of mine which I noticed at Sankalp or anywhere else, wherever I went for such kind of mass interactions in the country. And you know what? Wherever I went, I had this in front of me. Two constant fears with the people, fear of missing out and fear of being left behind. And I personally feel both of these can be really controlled. See, when it comes to IS type of examination, it's normal to have anxiety. It's normal to, take this major challenge in life as something very serious. But when it comes to the fears per se, fears of being missed out, fears of being left behind, I think they stem from more of the absence of belief in yourself, what I call as placebo effect, and importantly, being in this moment, living in this moment. This is very much possible through this. So, before I go to the next slide, I must appreciate this generation of yours in front of me. And for three reasons. I'm really fond of this generation. The first reason is, you people, your candid, experimental ways of life, I think you people are more subtle in comparison to my generation. The second reason is, your multitasking abilities. I think you can perform 6 functions at a time simultaneously. Laptop, WhatsApp, music, khana, etc., etc. But third important reason is this: the way beautifully you have transformed the Maslow theory of hierarchy needs to your needs, where beautifully you have included the physiological needs of yours of full battery, mobile, laptop, Wi-Fi, and whatnot in the existing list of physiological needs of breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, and so on. And then graduating to your esteemed needs of Insta handles as well as Twitter handles. And finally, graduating to nirvana state of self-actualization, where you should have at least 1 million YouTube followers and at least 10,000 LinkedIn followers. Am I right? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the real culprit of your fear of missing out. Am I suggesting to you, or am I being cynical to you, like your parents, that why are you not social media? No, absolutely no. I'm simply trying to suggest to you, take a little back seat, slightly do introspection in yourself and decide, hope this approach of yours is not consuming your self-worth, your self-esteem. That means hope your new Maslow theory which you have adopted for yourself is not consuming your self-worth and self-esteem. So, to cut it short, you need 3 hobbies in life. One to keep you creative, one to keep you in shape. I think you need to spend at least 1 hour every day to keep yourself fit. I think you have been getting this gyan from many people. Let me tell you, at this stage in my life, I spend 2.5 hours, despite my professional and personal commitments, I spend 2.5 hours, and sometime when it comes to Saturdays and Sundays and holidays, it extends to about 3 to 4 hours. Thirdly, money is important, very important. So that means, are you able to marry up your hobby and profession simultaneously, a tall order? What you need to remember always, you need to have well-considered and well-informed decisions about your future careers. When it comes to 360-degree outlook of leadership, or particularly your personal virtues that defines you. That means your ability to leverage strengths, fill in weaknesses, and dealing with failures. A word about fitness once again. Fitness is not about physicality. Fitness is about mind. Fitness is about strengthening of mind. Just 1 year ago, I participated in this wonderful expedition known as India Leadership Ride 2021, September, where 7 of the C-level executives went to Himalayas and scaled 700 kilometers over 9 days on cycle. And I was not only the eldest, but the least qualified when it came to cycling actually. In the difficult terrain and climate of Himalayas, where oxygen levels dipped to 50%, and the altitudes ranged well up to 15,000 feet. Why did I go? Why did I push my limits? It is basically to keep telling myself that I am both physically as well as mentally fit. As I am going to be 60 years this July, my first and foremost bucket list is that I want to run 60 kilometers on this D-Day, single day on that day. But that is, I will say, ornamental in nature. My real passionate thing which I am looking forward to after this inning, my next professional inning for next 20 years, where I can really match my passions and profession simultaneously and draw a balance actually. Now I bring your attention to the real soft skills, not the soft skills which are in the Harvard books or on the internet. And when I say so, I am talking about the need of integrity, empathy, and excellence. I think if you kill integrity, if you bring in integrity in your mind, that means your thoughts, expression, and action being aligned absolutely, empathy and excellence will follow. If you just simply follow these real soft skills, not only sky is going to be the limit, not only you are going to be successful, but you will remain joyous, and importantly, you will not burn out as it happens today at the age of 35 itself. I am aware in a campus like this, where admission itself is so difficult, where placements are of so higher order, you all are going to be successful, but you need to guard against yourself to absorb this success. You need to develop that appetite and you need to digest that success. Don't start taking yourself seriously at any stage in your life. And I quote Guljar here, who said, "हवा को भी गुमान था अपनी आज़ादी पर किसी ने उसे भी गुब्बारे में भरकर बेच दिया." याद रहे, यह सफर सिर्फ बड़ा आदमी बनने का नहीं है, आदमी बनने का भी है. Remember that this particular life is not, and again say not, to cater to fat packed packages which you are looking forward to in your 4th year placements that would happen soon. It is about to be human enough in life actually. It pays. It pays. Then only you can be happy. Lastly, don't be just online attractive. Be spiritually attracted. And when I say so, how can you do that? I will give you a mantra. The mantra is very clear. Divide your life into 4 quadrants. Family, friends, organization, and you yourself. Just give your time, energy, and effort at the rate of 20% to your family, 20% to friends, 20% to organization, and importantly, to you, how much? 40%. The life will be swinging. So, sometime, some of the mentees at the Sankalp organization and some of my colleagues who are my members, where I am chairman of the board, they have an opinion that it is not possible, it is not possible to develop the personality over a period of, time. It is not possible. It comes from home. It comes from the home environment. And though I may not completely disagree with them, but I generally quote an interesting story of a boy which I'm going to share with you. The story of the boy who was born in a labor colony long, long ago. A boy who was living in single room cubicle of 10 into 12 feet with his family members and semi-permanent guests, almost 7 to 8 of them always in this small room, without any kitchen, without any proper washrooms, without any facilities which you can call it as a house. A boy who had joined as a child labor immediately after his 10th board exams in a crayon factory known as Camel, a child who used to travel on cycle immediately after college for almost 15 kilometers to impart 3 tuitions, come back at 10 o'clock in the night, have dinner, settle for studies, and again get up at 5 o'clock for his morning routine. A boy for whom performance was hardly anything, survival was the basic instinct. A boy for whom the food itself became a struggle because of huge strikes in the factory where his father was working. I'm sure you might be thinking about this boy and would like to know, and some of you might have also guessed about this boy. If you have not guessed, this boy is Rajeev Mehajan in front of you. So despite odds, this boy refused to give up in life. Despite odds, this boy really refused to give up. And it was courtesy, let me tell you, the blessings of his parents, despite being uneducated, visionary parents who gave him enough space to perform in life, actually, whose hard work itself became inspiration for him. So it is not just my doing, it is the parents' blessings which remain, and the best wishes of people like you, which also remain and they continue to remain. So if I can do it, so can you.